You know, something I gotta say. Yeah, Melbourne used to be a good place to live, but I gotta tell you this, right? The cost of living is forever going up. The price of rental properties are forever going up. The the competition for a job is phenomenal. The rentals are pushing people out of the city in Melbourne. We're becoming like California. Now I speak to a lot of people in Cali, and a lot of what they say, or a lot of what they've said in the past, probably about five or so years ago, is actually starting to come to fruition now in Melbourne. So we're about like probably 5 years behind somewhere like California. Now, it's insane what I'm saying. It's the cost of living is becoming almost untenable. People cannot afford to live in the city of Melbourne. It's even worse in Sydney. And they were just saying on the news tonight that Melbourne's going to outstrip the population of Sydney in about 5 years. I mean, we're supposed to be like looking forward to that shit. They celebrate it in the media about this population boom. And of course, because the population is what the whole capital system's designed on. Now, capitalism is the best system going, but I've got to say that, unfortunately, yes, it might be the best system. But what I'm saying is that it is almost getting to the point where the system is designed on a pyramid scheme. So, the more the population increases, the more money is to be made for capitalists. And now it keeps growing the capital system when you have a population spur, and a burgeoning population will ensure that the capital system keeps working the way it does without any improvisations. Now, there needs to be some improvements to the capitalist model, because I'm not saying abandon capitalism because there's just nothing at the moment that can replace it. I mean, technologically, yes, we are advanced, but not advanced enough to do away with capitalism. Now, it is becoming a huge problem. We are reaching a point where the inequality just is growing, and it's growing daily. And it's becoming real noticeable. You've got poor people increasing, and it's not just increasing with the population. You've got it increasing beyond the population growth. So, where's the end in sight to all this? I mean, are they going to is the government going to do something about like a universal wage? Because look at our jobs, they're being outsourced every day. And if they're not being outsourced, then technology is taking away those jobs. A lot of jobs are becoming redundant because, technology takes those jobs away. Now, technology is not a bad thing. In some cases, it's quite complementary. But what do you do when technological progression reaches a point where people are losing jobs in huge numbers, I might add? Where is this going to end? I don't understand. It's a bit of a worry. I don't know where it's going to end. People are really worried that don't have financial stability. People that don't own their own houses, what are they going to do? The price of a new house now is phenomenal, and it keeps jumping by like 10% every year. The wages aren't jumping 10% every year. So how do you catch up? How do you if you're lucky enough to have a job, how do you catch up with the price of properties that just keep jumping? Because the influx of money coming from overseas, and people from China, namely, they're coming out here and purchasing properties, and then the remittances going back overseas. These people are laughing. They're living, like millionaire lifestyles at the expense of everyday Australians. Now, The government is weak because the government, taxes these international investors, so they don't give a shit about the people. Why should they? They're on like huge, exorbitant wages that are funded by the taxpayer. So what do they give a shit about people like the working class? The working class is becoming non-existent in this country, and in 25 years, where I see it, people being either rich or poor, there's not going to be anything in between. I'm just telling you, that's how it is. You tell me how you think it's going to be, because I'm telling you how I know it's going to be. Where you have a great divide between rich and poor, the haves versus the have-nots, and that the whole societal system will collapse when you have that. It will collapse because people will eventually be fed up, and there'll be an uprising. The modern day Eureka Stockade will be a civil war that won't be confined to one country like Australia. There will be uprisings everywhere. People will just have nothing to lose. This is modern day slavery we are talking about. That now exists in society in places like California, which is so horribly overpopulated because no one wants to do anything about population control, ethical population control. It is phenomenal just how overcrowded some cities are getting. The environment, whole ecosystems are being destroyed. Mass extinctions, global warming. If they really want to save the planet, then population control is where you start. Ethical population control, and you do that through educating people. You educate them to only have one kid. Japan has the right idea. With the deflation of their population, because soon it's going to be too late. If you're asking me where it's going to go, well, I think there is going to be a mass extinction. But I'm going to do another podcast soon on where I think, things will start to get better, how they'll get better, how changes will happen, and it won't happen overnight. There'll be a big price to pay for the way we are living now. And, I think it's going to be beyond my lifetime, so I don't think I have to worry too much. But, anyone that's born today or, in the near future, they've got to be real worried, eventually, because then, they're not going to have much of the freedoms that we had. They're not going to, and that's for a number of reasons. A lot of that's going to be financially because, in this country, in Australia, we're going to be, living just to work, just to pay rent to overseas masters, and that's how it's going to be. We're going to be paying rent to overseas masters. So how the tables have turned around. The once prosperous country now will be full of nationals that will be effectively slaves to overseas markets and populations. And China will own us. And that's what will happen. There's no denying that. It's already happened now. The wheels are in motion. We're seeing it every day. We're seeing the effects of this. We're seeing the slow takeover of this country. The Silk Road Initiative. They will put this down in the history books as how it all as one of the the real inroads by a foreign national to economically control Australia. And it's going to be very hard to get out of the grips of this economic control, because now our government is selling us out. And there's elements of the government that don't want to sell us out, but these capitalists, these corporations benefit from sustaining the economic model, which does not work in our favor. And Now, I'm not blaming Chinese people because Chinese people are quite nice. I am blaming the economic powers that exist in the world that promote capital's control, that promote a way of life that is detrimental to the majority that are not a part of the system. So if you are not a part of the top tier of the economic system, then you are really in trouble. You have very few options. The government will only make things worse. They will take away social welfare. There's already been talks of this. Papers got leaked. The government, if you have a look at it, it was an embarrassment to the government. They left out classified documents that fell into the wrong hands, and they had plans to, the Liberal Party had plans to abolish social welfare. They had think tanks that had designed concepts around abolishing social welfare. I'm not making this shit up. You can look it up yourself. It happened a few years ago. The Parliament House was having some refurbishments done. They left some classified documents in some furniture that was being moved out of Parliament House in Canberra. Someone got their hands on the documents, leaked it to the media, and it was a plan to abolish social welfare. And where does that leave your average person? Well, without social welfare, they're in the gutter. We are going to become like America. We are going to become a country full of haves and have-nots. Inequality will be out of control, and the once poor nations will be the rich nations. The once rich nations will be the poor nations, and we will be owned. That's just the sad reality of things. It's just the truth. But that's where I see things, and there's huge concerted campaigns to stifle free speech, to stop this message from getting out there, from educating people to what's going on, and that's where you really got to think for yourself, and don't listen to anyone, don't follow anything you read in the media. The media put twists and slants on things, and the truth is often distorted. When you move away from people's concept of the truth and the things they believe in, and the conditioning of society and the agendas pushed by people, you've really almost got to remove yourself from society before you start really seeing the truth. Anyway, I'm Emcee Rapology. This is my podcast. I hope this educates some of you to what's going on. Peace.